What happens when the leaders of two nations with vested interests in the Middle East voice their concerns on the world stage? What does it mean for the region and the world at large? This is not a hypothetical scenario, but a reality we find ourselves in today. Our focus is on the recent statements made by Turkish President Erdogan and Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova. Their words have sparked conversations, debates, and analyses around the globe. President Erdogan criticized the silence of the West, especially the U.S., on the suffering of women and children in conflict zones. On the other hand, Maria Zakharova highlighted Russia's stance as a counterbalance to Western influence in the Middle East. These statements, tinged with the complexities of the Syrian conflict and the roles of the U.S. and Israel, reveal a tapestry woven with geopolitical maneuverings, humanitarian concerns, and potential shifts in regional alliances. As we delve deeper into these statements, we'll explore the potential geopolitical implications, the impact on the Syrian conflict, and how this could signal possible shifts in regional alliances. Stay tuned as we unpack the layers of these powerful addresses and what they could mean for the future of global politics. Firstly, let's unpack Erdogan's statement and what it reveals about Turkey's stance. The Turkish leader expresses frustration over the silence of the West, particularly the United States, on the suffering of women and children in conflict zones. This signals a potential strain in Turkey's relations with its Western allies. Erdogan's statement could be interpreted as a call for Turkey to assert greater autonomy in its foreign policy, which could result in a shift in its international alliances. Now, let's consider what this could mean for Turkey's relationship with Israel. Erdogan's criticism might extend beyond the West's silence and could include dissatisfaction with Israel's policies or actions. This is particularly relevant in the context of the Palestinian issue, a topic that has historically been a point of contention between Turkey and Israel. On the other hand, Erdogan's comments might also suggest a degree of solidarity with the Palestinians. If this is the case, it could influence Turkey's approach towards Israel and potentially complicate their relations further. It's important to note that while Erdogan's words might be seen as a critique of Israel, they also reflect a broader dissatisfaction with the international community's handling of conflict zones. In essence, Erdogan's words suggest a potential shift in Turkey's foreign policy. This shift, while subtle, could signal a move towards greater independence on the international stage. It's a development that could have significant implications for Turkey's relations with the U.S., Israel, and the rest of the world. It's a development that we should all keep a keen eye on. Now, onto Zakharova's comments and the clear message Russia is sending to the world. Maria Zakharova, a representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, has made statements that underscore Russia's contrasting stance to that of the U.S. and Israel in Middle Eastern conflicts. She suggests a strong support for Palestinian groups, particularly those in Gaza. This is a powerful signal of Russia's intent to assert its influence in the region. Russia's support for Palestinian groups is a clear indication of its broader strategy in the Middle East. It's not just about supporting the Palestinians. It's about challenging the dominance of Western powers, particularly the United States and Israel. Zakharova's comments are a vivid illustration of this strategy. By positioning itself as a defender of the oppressed, Russia is seeking to carve out a unique role for itself, one that directly challenges the Western narrative. This strategy is not new. Russia has been gradually expanding its influence in the Middle East for years now, seeking to position itself as a counterbalance to Western power. From Syria to Libya and now to Palestine, Russia has been consistent in its efforts to assert its interests. It's clear that Russia is not just a bystander in the Middle East. It's an active player with a clear agenda. In a world where power dynamics are constantly shifting, Russia's stance is more than just posturing. It's a clear signal of its intent to be a major player in the region's politics and a challenge to the West's traditional dominance. Zakharova's comments, in this context, serve as a clear reminder of Russia's ambitions and its readiness to defend its interests. Zakharova's comments highlight Russia's ongoing commitment to assert its interests in the region and its readiness to challenge Western influence. What do these statements mean for the ongoing Syrian conflict and the larger geopolitical landscape? Turkey and Russia are key players in the Syrian conflict, but their interests often diverge. Erdogan's critique of the West's silence on the suffering of women and children in conflict zones may hint at Turkey's continued engagement in Syria. It could also suggest a growing frustration with the international response, or lack thereof, to the crisis. On the other hand, Zakharova's comments frame Russia as a supporter of certain factions in the region, possibly in contrast to Turkey's objectives. Russia's stance could be perceived as a demonstration of its military capabilities and a showcase of its influence in the Middle East. This stance, in turn, could potentially limit the freedom of action for foreign air forces operating in Syrian airspace, including those of Israel, Turkey, and the United States. But what does this mean for the region as a whole? The contrasting positions of Turkey and Russia, coupled with their criticisms of the West, could be indicative of shifting alliances. Turkey's potential dissatisfaction with Western policies may drive it to seek out new alliances or assert more independence in its foreign policy. Simultaneously, Russia's positioning as a counterbalance to Western influence may reinforce its existing alliances and attract new ones. In essence, these statements could signal a shift in the geopolitical landscape. This shift could see new alignments taking shape in response to the issues underlined by Erdogan and Zakharova. Given the complex dynamics of the Middle East, such a shift could have far-reaching implications, not just for the region, but for the world. These statements could be indicative of a shift in the geopolitical landscape, which could have far-reaching implications for the Middle East and beyond. Finally, let's consider the domestic politics at play and the broader humanitarian concerns raised. These statements from Erdogan and Zakharova serve a dual purpose. Not only do they highlight their respective nations' positions on the global stage, but they also are masterfully designed to shape public perception within their own borders. Erdogan's criticism of Western silence on the suffering of women and children in conflict zones may serve to bolster his image as a defender of the oppressed, particularly in the Muslim world. Zakharova's remarks, on the other hand, could be intended to portray Russia as a principled actor in international affairs, contrasting with what they depict as the hypocrisy of Western nations. The emphasis on the suffering of women and children in conflict zones is a poignant reminder of the human cost of these geopolitical games. It raises serious questions about the effectiveness and sincerity of the international community's response to humanitarian crises. Are we doing enough? Can we do more? These are questions that we as a global community need to grapple with. These statements and the positions they reflect could lead to significant shifts in the geopolitical landscape. The world stands at a crossroads, with the potential for new alliances to be formed, existing ones to be reinforced, or even for some to be fractured. As we've seen, the words of Erdogan and Zakharova not only reflect their respective nations' stances, but may also signal significant shifts in the geopolitical landscape. As always, the world will be watching closely.